Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my cousin after she locked herself in my baby's room and wouldn't come out? I, 24, had my son 2 months ago. I live at home with only my mother, and I'm pretty protective of him since he came out premature and his father walked out. Now for the context. I have an almost 16-year-old cousin who we'll call Laura. We both grew up together and were very close. I spent a lot of time with Laura, and as she got older, it got easier to hang out with her by the time I became an adult. As for Laura, she really likes my son. She's always asking if she can see him and hold him, and I always had to refuse in the beginning due to how weak and at risk for things he used to be. She would sometimes get an attitude or look at me weird, but never did anything else and listened. Now that he's older, I've let her come by sometimes to see him. Earlier this week, my mom was out of the house and Laura was sent over so that she could deliver some stuff for me. I had spent about 45 minutes trying to get him to go to sleep, and when Laura got there, it had taken me another 10 minutes before he did. Laura had asked if she could hold him while he slept, and I told her no before putting him in his crib and leaving. I had decided to start making food in that time, and Laura went somewhere else in the house. I didn't really care since she's family. About 15 minutes later, I heard my son crying, and when I went to go check on him, I found the door locked, and I could hear Laura inside trying to calm my son down. I told her to open the door, but she refused and told me she had it handled. I started trying to force the door open, but failed. I started panicking and slamming on the door, and in that time, Laura somehow had forced the dresser in my son's room onto the door. At this point, I was nearly having a panic attack, and Laura was yelling she could help my son, even though he was screaming and crying as well. I called my mom begging her for help. She had told me she would call Laura's mom and that I should call the cops. I did as she told and told them of my situation, and they came soon after. They came in, told Laura to open the door, and when she refused again, even with my son screaming, they took the door off its hinges and went inside and fought with Laura for my son. My mind muddles a bit here because of how much of a mess I was, but they eventually grabbed my son from her arms after they found her in the corner of the room on the floor with him. Laura's parents and the police took Laura someplace else, and I took my son to the hospital to see if he was fine. Now my mom's side of the family is telling me I should consider pressing charges on Laura, while Laura's family is livid with me for calling the police on her, and that calling her mother was enough. I'm really torn between it. On one hand, I'm upset with her that she did that to me and my son, but on the other hand, I feel bad for calling the police on her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You should press charges. What she did was terrible. But also, this girl clearly needs help. Therapy. Lots of it. It's odd because before all this, Laura genuinely seemed okay. She always had a soft spot for babies like I do, but she never once growing up displayed this sort of behavior. Or at least in front of me. Something like this can happen fast. All it needs is one trigger. For me, it was one word in a therapy session, and boom, the psychotic episode blew up on me. I was medicated. I was in therapy. It happened anyway. Wow. I didn't even really know something like that was really possible. I'm sorry something like that happened to you. And thank you for educating me on this. I'll be sure to take that into consideration if I end up going through with everything. Not a-hole. And if I were you, I'd consider getting a restraining order. I actually never even considered that until I read your comment. And I may just do that now. Thank you for the suggestion. Do it, OP. Do it now. Get a restraining order, press charges, and do not drop them. She needs to learn that what she did was unacceptable and very irresponsible. Also, keep her away from your child. Laura has an unhealthy obsession with your son, and I fear she might try to kidnap him. Not a-hole. She's 16, not 4. She should know better. Honestly, a restraining order might not be a bad idea. It's a pretty unhealthy obsession with your baby if Laura was willing to fight law enforcement over it. Also, that girl needs some psychological help. What on earth would possess someone to do something so dangerous and stupid? That's what I want to know as well. Growing up, she was never really like this. She's always loved babies and small children. And yes, very little she fought to have the baby in her arms, but she didn't ever force her way like this. It almost feels like it was out of nowhere. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my former best friend that I'm married? Some background. Me, 25 female, and my former best friend Eve, 25 female, were friends for 6 years. We met in high school and then went to college together, and we were very close for that time. Around 3 years ago, we had a huge falling out. The details aren't important, but the falling out wasn't over anything petty. She deeply hurt my feelings, had been doing so for a while, and when explained to her why I was hurt, Eve wasn't remorseful at all. And to this day, I've never gotten an apology. Because of this, I told Eve 3 years ago that I no longer wanted to be friends. We haven't spoken since. Fast forward to last Saturday. I was at the grocery store with my husband and we ran into her. I really didn't want to talk, but I said hello and introduced her to my husband. She looked really shocked and went silent for a minute. She then asked me multiple times if I was being serious about being married, and I said that yes, I was actually married. I told her we got married last year, right before everything shut down. She kind of mumbled a congratulations, and then we went our separate ways. Last night, she sent me a very long email about how upset she was that she never knew I was married, that she wasn't invited to the wedding, that she didn't get to help me pick out a dress, etc. We had talked about how we would be in each other's weddings and all that when we were friends. She was also offended at how I introduced her to my husband. I said, "This is Eve. We went to college together." Maybe that was rude, but I didn't know what to call her, and I didn't want to be like, "This is my ex-best friend," so that's what I went with. She said that she cried all night after she got home because she couldn't believe that I would be so cruel. She also mentioned how pissed she was that she had to find out over a year later. I'm trying to understand her perspective, but at that point when I got married, it had been 2 years of absolutely no contact. I couldn't imagine just calling her up and being like, "Hey, I know we haven't spoken in years, but I'm getting married. Want to come help me plan it?" Plus, she knew how badly she had hurt me. It has never tried to apologize or reconcile. I can kind of see why she's upset. We were friends for a long time, but we weren't friends now and haven't been for a while. I don't think I was in the wrong by not telling her, but I would love some outside opinions. Edit. I saw some comments asking if it was made clear to her that our friendship was over. Yes, I made it very clear 3 years ago that we were not friends anymore. Not the a-hole. Dude, why are you even entertaining this woman? She only stirs up crap. I wouldn't even be giving her but a second thought. Block her and move on. Hell, if someone I parted on bad terms with and hadn't seen for 2 years invited me to their wedding, I would assume they were fishing for gifts and ignore it. Opie would be in the doghouse with her either way. I feel like former friend is in between a rock and a hard place. She misses Opie and wants her back as friend, but she also never wants to admit that she's done anything wrong and has no plans to make any amends. She may very well be hurt that she wasn't included in Opie's special day when she always thought she would be. But hurt feelings don't erase her horrible personality and selfishness. Not the a-hole. Opie, you're better off. Not the a-hole. I'd wager a guess she is jealous you managed quite well without her. And so instead of apologizing, she's turning it around to blame you for something. Ignore her. Still not your friend. And now she gets to be the victim, which is a much more comfortable role for her. Not the a-hole. If she's not remorseful about what she did, it's possible that to this day she doesn't understand how serious the falling out actually was. If she thinks that you've been overblowing it, and that somehow you're still two best friends amidst a long cold period, I could see why she'd be shocked that you have a husband without her knowing. She seems dense and inconsiderate, but I could understand why she's so stunned if she's really that ignorant. I think this sounds like the most likely answer. She thought they were still kind of friends, or she would come around? Doesn't make Opie the a-hole or anything. Edit. Thanks for everyone's feedback. I've decided I'm not going to respond. I just know it would end in drama, and that's the last thing I want. I know people want to know what happened 3 years ago, but I'm really not comfortable talking about it. It's a very long story, and even though quite a bit of time has passed, it still upsets me to dwell on. It was over something very serious. I think I deserved an apology, but I'm never going to beg for someone to treat me the way I think I should be treated. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying no to donating money to my cousin's wedding? My fiancé and I have been working odd jobs along with regular jobs to finance our wedding. Our wedding was set for this year, but we moved it to next year because of COVID. We weren't expecting things to get better and didn't want family to buy flights only to have it cancelled. My cousin got engaged with her fiancé towards the end of last year and then set their wedding to the day before ours. That's a whole other story. My cousin then called up all family members including my parents and myself to give her around $500, but more if we can afford it, to help them finance their wedding. I told her no because my fiancé and I are saving up as much as we can for our wedding next year. I wanted to say because I didn't want to ask family members to help pay for our wedding unless they offered, but didn't want to insult her since I realized that's what she was doing at the moment. So I left that part out, but that's why I didn't end up donating. She then sounded angry and said it was fine, but has been telling family members about it and saying that we are being stingy, especially since our wedding is not this year anymore. My parents did agree to send $500 on their part though, so it's just my fiancé and I who said no. Am I the a-hole for saying no? I don't feel like I am, but I've gotten mixed answers from family and friends. Now for the comments. Let me guess. She still expects gifts from the guests, and of course they need to pay for their hotel rooms by themselves? Big fat not day-hole. Not day-hole. This is my thought as well. Don't give in advance, just give them a gift. Edit to add. Recommend suggesting to your parents they give the $500 with a card to make it clear this is their wedding/engagement gift. Example, a gift from us in celebration of your engagement, wedding, and marriage. Alternatively, give them $500, but then start collections for your own wedding at $750. If they don't pony up, start bad-mouthing them to the whole family. How to turn tables. Honestly, the best revenge would be to subject the rest of the family to a repeat performance, since Opie's making them sound not like accomplices, but like fellow victims. Instead, Opie could defend herself. It has come to our attention that cousin has unfortunately been telling everyone that we have declined what we were told was an optional request to help pay for their wedding. That is our choice, but since we've been put in a position to defend it, a few things. 1. We're saving up for a wedding of our own, one we don't feel comfortable soliciting others to pay for. 2. Our wedding was planned first, but cousin didn't volunteer to help pay for it, so naturally we're surprised that we were expected to help pay for hers. 3. Every article we can find on the subject emphasizes how tacky it is to ask for non-parent guests to pay for weddings. Then just Google something like, relative ask pay for wedding, and go from there. If Opie wants revenge. What kind of selfish, entitled whiner even does something like that? Anyone who can't afford to pay for their own damn wedding shouldn't be having a wedding. You're not day-hole, and everyone who actually gives them money's an idiot. Or a small wedding, even just at a courthouse / whatever your local way is. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my manager it's not my problem if nobody can do my job? So some background is needed here. I'm 19 male and have worked at the leisure center in my town since I was 16. It has a gym, a pool, a function room / hall, and a cafe. Up until recently, my job was cleaning the gym and hall and working in / cleaning the cafe, but obviously it's been closed for a while and I've been on furlough. Thing is, my parents' house is very toxic and it reached a point where I had to get out, which I couldn't afford to do on furlough alone. I took on 2 new cleaning jobs to cover my living expenses. The leisure center opened again last week, all apart from the cafe part, and I realized just how much I'd be juggling now between work and uni. Since the 2 new jobs pay significantly better than this one, but I can use all the extra hours I can squeeze in, I elected to stop working in the cafe when it reopens because I think those hours will tip it over into too many territory. I told this to one of the 2 cafe managers and she said that's fine. So the issue. This morning, the other cafe manager messaged me about reopening and stuff, and asking if I'm okay to work the same hours I was before. I replied saying, sorry, I think there's been some missed communication. I told the other manager I won't be working the cafe anymore, as I've got 2 other jobs now and it's just too many hours. She was not happy. She began complaining to me that the cafe is short-staffed as is, and they don't have another cleaner on hand to do it. At one point in my life, I'd have folded and said I'd do it. But I'm trying to be better about advocating for myself, so I said, I'm sorry about the inconvenience, but I had my notice okayed and sorting a replacement isn't my problem. She then got upset and called me rude and insolent, and said she's going to report me to the overall general manager of the place for my conduct. I'm really beginning to panic that I'm going to get into big trouble for this, and if I could have handled this better, am I the a-hole for what I said? Not the a-hole. Sounds like the manager is trying to scare you. You got the okay from the other manager. You did everything right. The manager is just mad that they have to do actual work to find a replacement. I do still work in the leisure center, just not the cafe part. Touch base with your current department manager, just to let them know that the old one is upset you can't do hours for them, but make it very clear you want the hours in the new roles. Why shouldn't you earn more per hour? This right here. Make sure whatever department head of the leisure center you do work for knows the situation. Not the a-hole. She's going to report you? Hilarious. Who to? The director of Hurt's Feelings? Not the a-hole. Make sure you have proof that you gave your notice. I definitely do. I submitted it via email, so it's all there.
Am I the a-hole for moving out at 17 when I was helping provide for my family because my brother got my now ex-girlfriend pregnant and my parents are supporting them? I'm 17 and my brother is 16. My now ex is 16 too. I started dating her 2 years ago. When she told me she was pregnant, I knew the kid wasn't mine because we never had sex, but she was so distraught that I didn't say anything to anyone at first because I wondered if she might have been violated. But that wasn't it. She had cheated with my brother, and he got her pregnant. I admit I lost my temper and almost beat the crap out of him when I found out. My grandpa was able to stop me before I did something I'd regret. Not because he's my brother and I love him. That's not it at all. It's because it would have ruined my life. My parents were all over the place, but they said they would stand by my brother and my ex. I told them I hoped they knew they were on their own with that, and I wasn't supporting it. They looked at me like I had broken their hearts. See, ever since I was 13, I found ways to help out with money because my parents struggled, and as soon as I could get a real job, I did. I was still doing it when all this happened, and my parents didn't want me to stop. I ended up moving in with my grandparents because I couldn't be around them anymore. My parents were upset I was leaving. My grandparents, who never liked my parents relying on me like they did, told them it was tough luck, and they should be ashamed of themselves for expecting me to take care of the mess my brother created and help them provide for the rest of our lives. They told my parents it was never my job. My ex tried to reach out, and I told her I didn't want to yell at a pregnant person, so just leave me alone and forget I exist, because I will never have anything to do with her again. My brother tried reaching out too, but I just didn't answer, and I deleted his texts and blocked him. I walk away from him at school, and if I see him outside, I walk the other way. I started walking the long way home just to avoid him. My parents expected me to calm down after a month or two, but it's been several months now. I'm almost 18, and the baby will be here soon, and nothing has changed or will change. I told them I won't be a part of that baby's life or my brother's life ever again. They told me I need to calm down and be more rational, that I was always so responsible and good. My grandparents almost lost their minds when they heard that guilt trip and the implication that I wasn't good anymore. I was told by some other family, siblings of one parent, that I should try to be more understanding. That moving out like I did is extreme when I'm still technically a minor. They basically went to bat for my parents because they feel like I was unfair to them when they have to support their kid even if he messed up. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm glad you have your grandparents. It was never your responsibility to provide for your parents' family. You have your own life to lead, and you have no obligation to subject yourself to people who intentionally hurt you. I hope that you do great things and have a wonderful life. Me too. My grandparents saved me from being pretty miserable and maybe even going to the streets, because I think I would have chosen that over living there with everything that happened. See the silver lining in all this. Your brother's actions have freed you from any obligations, financial or otherwise, towards your parents and him. No offense, but you are way too young to be supporting 3 to 5 people financially. If you want to work, do it for yourself. If you want to study, do that. Not the a-hole. All the best. Not the a-hole. Keep that hostility, but I do recommend therapy, homie. This nonsense plus the making you support the household crap will stick with you and affect you later in life if you don't address it now. I'm looking into it now, but I'm not totally sold on the idea just yet. Speaking as someone who has been through therapy for other reasons, there is no timetable for getting therapy. It works best when you are ready for it to happen. If you aren't feeling ready just yet, that is okay. It'll still be there for when you do feel it's time. But there is definitely no harm in researching your options in the meantime to shortlist some good candidates for when you feel it's time to reach out. I like this idea. I don't want to end up with someone who tries to make me get over it and have a relationship with them all again. I know there are therapists who don't believe in not having contact with family and believe you should stick around regardless. So I don't want to bounce around just to one who won't say anything like that to me. My grandparents said they'd look out for stuff like that for me. But when we were talking about it, the first couple we found were like that, and I was so turned off of therapy from that. Next story. Am I the a-hole? I told mom she can bill me using the tuition money she stole from me. When I, 33 male, was preparing to go to uni, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Over the years, my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only deposited the first payment. She spent the rest. To be honest, I wasn't even surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back and asked that I never tell my dad. So for 4 years, I thanked them for the tuition money while I took out loans. For reasons related to her narcissism, I have an arm's-length relationship with her, though she would say we're pretty close, as she assumes my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories constitutes a relationship. We have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days a year. I've been going there with my girlfriend for about 4 days each summer, which she begrudges, as it takes away from her time. My dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. She recently told me it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage since I use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate. I told her she could take it out of the tuition IOU and that we could negotiate the amount with my dad. She was speechless. She texted me later to say that it was manipulative to bring up the tuition and to threaten to tell my dad. It went on and on. I've been thinking about it, and at first I'm hurt and offended that she can't just do a nice thing for me. She has to get something out of it. Second, I guess I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. Would I be the a-hole for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for use of the cottage? Edit. At the time, it never occurred to me that I should have told him. I thought I was doing the right thing by protecting both of them. That pretty much summarizes my childhood. Not the a-hole, but I'm confused as to why you agreed to keep this secret from your dad. It isn't clear from your post whether or not your parents are currently married, but either way, it makes no sense to lie to your father. He thinks he spent money on your education, and for some reason you went along with this lie? Right? I wonder about the relationship. If it was my child, I'd be very angry at my wife, but I'd be hurt by my son. Like, do we not have a good enough relationship that he felt he couldn't tell me? That I wouldn't believe him or what? Also hurt that I worked so hard to help my child and give them a head start, but they felt it better to fall into debt than not tell me for reasons? If I found out my son felt he had to protect his mother to this degree after a transgression that large, I would be horrified and disgusted with myself to see that I allowed my son to be raised by this woman without adequate protection from me. Everyone sucks here except Dad. You're the a-hole for not telling your dad as soon as you were aware that your mom stole from both him and you. He could try legal action to recover some or all of that stolen tuition money. Instead, he may have continued giving her money intended for your schooling while you were taking on debt. Your complicity in your mom stealing from your dad and you has hurt your dad. You let him stay ignorant and vulnerable to your mom's lies. Your mom is obviously the a-hole as well. She has injured you and your dad and manipulated you into being her accomplice to leave your dad vulnerable. You are an adult now. You can choose how much access and energy you focus on your parents. Your mom is a manipulative, abusive user. No one who doesn't hold firm boundaries to prevent her accessing vulnerabilities is safe with her. You owe your dad a huge apology and the truth. You have deceived him for years now, hiding your mom's lies and thievery to the damage of you both. It's one thing to be a vulnerable child under duress from a present and toxic parent. It's quite another to carry that deception on to taint your current and future relationship with your father. I think this is a little harsh. The child of a narcissist made that decision to protect themselves, and they have felt like they had to live with that decision. The longer you hold on to a lie, the harder it is to come clean. That said, it sounds like you think it's time to come clean and are worried. Trust your instincts, not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to make amends with my dying sister? My sister, 53, and I, 45, have not spoken since I was 30. We used to be super close. She was like a mother to me growing up, as our own mother fell pregnant when I was 1.5 and spent the entire pregnancy plus 6 months post-birth in the hospital. At 11 years old, I was living with my sister and her boyfriend, now husband, for school reasons. Her boyfriend essayed me. I told her, and he beat her when she confronted him. She then told me it was my fault because I was acting like a tart and had led him on. I believed her and felt responsible for the beating she got. I spent the next 12 years trying to protect her from him, cleaning her blood off the walls and helping to raise their kids. I constantly begged her to leave him, to no avail. At 24, he tried it on me again. I told our mother. Her first question was, "Did you make him think you wanted that?" She made excuses for him and told me not to tell my sister. A week later, my sister called me, yelling and demanding to know what I did with her husband. I told her exactly what happened, and she called me a liar. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt and blaming myself for the next 6 years. I finally had enough of her BS and cut her out of my life at 30. She got cancer when I was 21, and I moved cities to care for her and her kids. Apparently, it's back now, and my mom thinks I need to forgive her and make amends before she dies. For the record, she's still married to my offender. My response was that she died 15 years ago in my eyes. So, am I the a-hole for not making amends and letting her go to her grave without my forgiveness? Now for the comments. Has she even apologized? You can start forgiving someone without a sincere apology. Given the lack of apology, you're definitely not the a-hole. Even if she did apply, you're still under no obligation to forgive, and you would still be not the a-hole. Your mother needs to understand that you tolerated that partner for years for your sister, and sis is not willing to repay that kindness with acknowledgement. No apology ever, just denials, excuses, and you're making it sound worse than it was. Forgiveness is for you, not her. It's so she doesn't take up your thoughts and emotional bandwidth any more than she already has. You can forgive someone and never see them again. You never have to put yourself in a position to be abused or put in danger to prove you've forgiven them. So it's okay to forgive, but reconciliation doesn't sound like it will be safe for you physically or emotionally, given your abuser is still in her life. And she did nothing to protect you from him when he assaulted you as a child. Seriously? She doesn't need to forgive at all. Forgiveness is crap, and all it does is let the wrongdoer off the hook. Why should she forgive when her sister didn't even try to atone? Nope, no absolution here. If anyone needs to make amends, it's your sister. Your mental health is more important. Stay away, and don't let them guilt you into doing something you don't want to do. SA apologists that blame the victim are some of the lowest of the low. OP, agree with the above. Do you have a sounding board? Group therapy? Girls group where you vent at a bar every Thursday night? Kickboxing? What are you doing with your life to have no regrets? Has she reached the point of a sigh and a shoulder shrug? If there is any emotional response, you still need to work on yourself. Example, a pen pal of mine spoke of her father and his near abuse every time he would visit. He had something to do with what happened that put her in a wheelchair. I worked with her over a period of months on how to get to a point where he didn't get a rise out of her or allow him to push her buttons. It was so successful that he gave up and moved back to his hometown in Tennessee. 6 weeks later, he took his own life. She was able to process it. Her younger brother, who kept hope their dad would change, didn't do as well with the loss. Good luck. Keep us updated. Sending white light to you and your family. I have no regrets, and I am indifferent when it comes to my sister. Edit. Thank you all for the positive advice. I truly appreciate it. To answer a couple of the most prominent questions in the comments, yes, I spent a long time in and out of therapy, unpacking all the hurt, guilt, feelings of abandonment, and feeling of being let down. No, I don't hate her. For many years, I did, venomously, but that feeling changed to indifference as I healed. I don't believe I needed to forgive her to heal. My healing came when I found forgiveness for myself. As stupid as it sounds, I blamed myself and had to work hard to accept and believe that the blame doesn't sit at my feet. For the most part, I pay her no mind and live a full and happy life surrounded by the people I hold dearest. This only became an issue when it was brought up recently. Thank you again for all the positivity. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my wife out after I found out she cheated, even though she says it was just emotional? I, 34 male, have been married to my wife, 32 female, for 6 years, together for 9. We've had what I thought was a stable, loving relationship. No major fights, good communication, shared values, or so I thought. A couple of weeks ago, I noticed she started acting different, guarded, always on her phone, jumping into the shower as soon as she got home. I trusted her, but my gut was screaming. Last Thursday, while she was asleep, I looked at her messages. I know, not proud. That's when I found them. Dozens of messages between her and a coworker. Flirty, intimate, and clearly more than just friendship. Stuff like, I wish I could fall asleep next to you, and you make me feel alive again. Nothing explicitly sexual, but emotionally, it somehow felt worse. They talked about me, how I wouldn't understand her the way he does. I confronted her the next day. She cried, admitted it, and insisted it was just emotional, that it never got physical, and that she was going through a phase of feeling unappreciated. I asked her why she didn't just talk to me about that. She said she was scared I'd shut her down. I told her to pack a bag and leave. I needed space. She begged me not to throw away our marriage over a few messages. Said I was being cruel. Her sister called me later, saying I was being dramatic and emotionally abusive for kicking her out over just texting. Now I'm sitting alone in our apartment, questioning everything. I loved her, still do, but I feel betrayed on a level I can't describe. I don't know if I overreacted. Part of me wonders if I'm letting pride ruin what could be fixed. So, am I the a-hole for kicking her out after finding out about her emotional affair? Not the a-hole. But if it wasn't physical, why was she rushing to the shower as soon as she got home? Emotionally cheating hurts just as much as physically, but I'm not so sure she didn't cross both lines. She was banging the dude and taking a shower when she got home got rid of the evidence. She could have been trying to cover her bases if things were physical. The fact she felt the need to hide everything just proves how deep the betrayal goes. Not the a-hole. Personally, an emotional affair would be way more hurtful than a purely physical one. You're not overacting at all. She's the one that messed up, so if you need space from her, then you get to claim the apartment. Some people would be able to move on with a relationship, some wouldn't. Whatever group you're in is something to figure out. But at this point, she's already screwing up even more by downplaying the affair and being unsupportive. The problem isn't just the cheating, it's now also her reaction when it came out. Sorry this happened to you, men. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. There are a lot of articles available talking about how emotional affairs are just as, if not more damaging than physical affairs. Am I the a-hole for wanting nothing to do with the child my brother is having with my ex and refusing to acknowledge them naming their kid after me? I, 20 male, dated my now ex-best friend Aaliyah from age 13 to 17. We'd been best friends since pre-K, and I adored her. I thought we'd get married as adults and have a family. But then I found out she was cheating with my brother, currently 19 male. My relationship with both of them was over when I found out, and it was messy for months. Aaliyah wanted me back. She told me she made a mistake, and that we were meant to be together. My brother wanted me to see it as a mistake at first, but then he wanted Aaliyah, and he told me he fell in love with her and wanted me to accept it and support them being together. Then Aaliyah wanted my brother. So before I moved out, they were together and dating. I avoided them like the plague, and anytime they tried talking to me, I told them to get the heck away from me and treated them like a disease. A couple of times, my brother and I almost came to blows because he started getting angry that I wasn't willing to forgive them. He accused me of trying to break them up. One time it got really close after a fight because I said I hoped the two of them were miserable and banged everything that moved until they destroyed whatever love they thought they had. He didn't like me saying it, but I meant it. When I moved out, I refused to see my brother after that. My parents understood, but told me they hoped in the future we could be in the same room. Some family invite the two of us to events, and I skip them to avoid him. Other family members invite only me. It's caused some tension. I told those people in my family that if they want to invite my brother to keep the drama down, I'd see them other times. But I have some really loyal family. There was some tension several months ago when my brother and Aaliyah were in an accident. I didn't go to the hospital, and I only called to see how my parents were doing. I didn't care about my brother or Aaliyah at all. It rubbed some people the wrong way. It upset Aaliyah really badly too, and my brother started talking crap about me to some family. Then, after a while, he tried to get a cousin who speaks to us both to mediate for us, and I told my cousin he didn't need to because I still wanted nothing to do with my brother. My brother and Aaliyah are having a baby now, and apparently, once they found out they were having a boy, they decided to name him after me. This was used to try and bring me back into the fold. I have some family telling me I need to be in my nephew's life and that I better fix things between the three of us before he's born. But I don't want a relationship with their kid, and them naming him after me changes nothing for me. It's getting me some grief from family members who say I should be over it by now, and that my only brother should be more important than some teenage cheating. I was told by some people on my side, and others on the side of forgiveness, that my brother and Aaliyah's relationship gets more strained the longer I refuse to have anything to do with them. The family on my side tell me as a heads up for dramatic relatives. The people on the side of forgiveness tell me to shame me for potentially putting the baby through a broken family from day one. They said I wished ill on the relationship, and now a baby is involved, so I shouldn't want everyone miserable and should want a relationship with the child. They say it's disgusting that I'm not willing to put the past behind us so I can be an uncle. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. That's not a namesake. It's emotional whiplash in a baby blanket. Seriously, it's not a tribute. It's a twisted guilt trip wrapped in a diaper. They blew up OP's world and now want a gold star for slapping his name on their mess? Wild. Let's not forget a child carrying OP's name will forever be a reminder of what happened, and the kid will inevitably grow up with people resenting him. He might even become a messed up adult when he grows up. Terrible thing to do in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Unless they want you around to one day tell your nephew why he's named after you and how you used to date his mom, they should shut the heck up. I don't know what they're thinking of with that stunt. It'll only mess the kid up, especially if before they tell him they talk about me as some loving uncle who wants a relationship. Just because you share DNA with someone does not mean they are entitled to a relationship with you. My brothers are both blocked. Unfortunately, that means I have no relationship with their offspring either. I don't miss them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my sister to my wedding because she always jokes about sleeping with my fiancé? Okay, so I'm getting married in October. Small, chill, nothing crazy. Should be a happy time, right? Except my older sister, 31 female, has this thing where she constantly flirts with my fiancé, 29 male, like aggressively. And it's always under the guise of, "Oh my god, I'm just joking. Don't be so sensitive." First time she met him, she deadass said, "Wow, you upgraded." I'd let him ruin my life too, in front of me. I laughed it off because I didn't want to seem insecure, but like, WTF. Then she started with the, "If you ever get bored of her, you know who to call," comments. Again in front of me. I told her it was weird, and she rolled her eyes and said I'm too uptight. She's made so many little jabs. I saw him shirtless once. Damn girl, you got lucky. If you die first, I call dibs. Too bad you got to him first, lol. Like it never ends. My fiancé thinks it's awkward but tries to ignore it. He's not flirtatious back, but he also doesn't really shut it down either. Just gets uncomfortable and laughs nervously. Last weekend was the last straw. We were at my parents' house, and I left to grab something from my car. Came back and heard her saying, "I swear I'm not making this up. I mean, if you're having second thoughts, I'm always available. Just kidding. Unless," like, the unless was real. That's not a joke anymore. That's a goddamn come on. I snapped. Told her she's disgusting and can't come to the wedding. She flipped, cried. Told my mom I was being dramatic. Now the whole family's saying I'm ruining the family over a joke and she's just always been flirty and doesn't mean anything by it. I don't even care if she meant it or not anymore. I just don't want that energy around me when I'm trying to get married. But now it's this whole thing, and I'm apparently the villain for excluding her and making it a bigger deal than it is. Am I the a-hole for uninviting her, or is this actually insane? Because at this point, I feel like I'm losing it. Not the a-hole. Why the heck would you ever make comments like this about someone's significant other, especially in private to him with you not around? Instead of admitting her wrong, she continues to gaslight you into believing you're insecure and overreacting. Ultimately, it's your wedding, and if she can't respect you and your boundaries, then she doesn't have to be there. She disrespected me, and I'm her own sister. That says everything I need to know. Thank you for your comment. Seriously, it means a lot. You're not the one dividing the family. She is. She is the one making inappropriate comments. And she is the one who does not know when to stop. Not the a-hole. You're absolutely not the villain here. Your sister repeatedly disrespected your relationship and dismissed your boundaries and made your fiancé visibly uncomfortable, and that's what's dividing the family. Not you protecting your peace. Uninviting her is setting a boundary she's long ignored. Here's the truth. The sister fancies her sister's boyfriend. How would she react if it were other way around? Seen too many fights and betrayals on social media that these jokes and feelings can ruin lives. If I were in a situation like this, I'd never bring a girl home, as it's always a recipe for ruination. My advice, go no contact. Thank you. I think you're right. It also sounds like your sister and family has no regard for your feelings at all. Do you feel like the villain frequently in your family? Has your sister always been the child that could do no wrong in your family? If so, you might want to look into scapegoating. As the family scapegoat myself with a narcissistic brother, this is sounding very familiar. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not naming my second son after my husband's late half-sister when we named our first son after his late brother? My husband lost his younger brother in an accident as a child. My husband was 7 and his brother was 6. My husband felt strongly about honoring his brother with our first son's name. So we did it in a less direct way. My husband called his brother AJ, and he was the only person to do so. The rest of the family and friends used his brother's full first name or a shortened version of the full name. His middle name had a J, so we chose a J middle name from our list too, and everyone calls our oldest AJ. I gave birth to our second son recently, and we went with another name off our list. This was taken badly by his mom and stepdad and some of his maternal family. When my husband was a teenager, his mom had another child, his half-sister, and she died from a childhood cancer at the age of 3. Her name was a unisex name, and they were expecting us to use it for baby number 2, regardless of the sex of our second child. When we didn't, it started a fight. My husband's mom and stepdad were mad at him for honoring one lost sibling and not the other. His mom was very upset about it. Eventually, their anger turned to me because they said I knew. My husband defended me and told them it was wrong to pressure me and expect me to make that decision and force it on him. His dad also stepped in and defended us. The maternal relatives fighting it were quick to say this had nothing to do with him because she wasn't his child, and said he'd feel the same way in my husband's mom's shoes. The whole thing ended with everyone else leaving our house, but his mom keeps insisting we were wrong and how it shows a favoritism between the 2 siblings he lost. She told him it made her feel like his full brother was more important to him than his half-sister. I can see how much she's hurting, but my husband only felt the wish to honor his brother, so we did. We didn't even use the exact same name. That didn't matter to his mom or the others complaining. Am I the a-hole for not using his half-sister's name, even if we didn't really want to? Now for the comments. Naming your child isn't a family grief contest, and love for one lost sibling doesn't erase the memory of another. Your son isn't a tribute token, and it's not cruel to protect his name from obligation. His mom is thinking this is full versus half, instead of thinking this is same gender sibling 1 year apart versus opposite gender sibling at least a decade apart. That being said, his poor mother has lost 2 children at young ages. I cannot even imagine the unspeakable pain and grief she has endured. Her feelings on this are wrong and irrational, but I have to admit that I have a hard time judging her for the occasional irrational behavior given what she has endured. That doesn't excuse her from laying it on them though either. She needs to see a therapist if she can't handle the grief. Not the a-hole. What a mess. It's not a contest. Also, your children don't only exist to serve as a memorial to her dead children, as harsh as that sounds. It is an honorable gesture to name a child in honor of someone, but should never be expected and taken for granted. And maybe your husband did have a better connection to his brother. Unfortunately, since she passed at such a young age, which is tragic, no discussion about that, and he was in his teens at the time, you can't blame him for maybe not being as involved. Additionally, the family dynamics at the time maybe weren't as easy too. One can't fault him for that. Ever since his parents' divorce, the relationship has been difficult. It only got worse after his brother died. It's unfortunate, but tragedy can bring out the worst in some people. My youngest child was named after 2 people. Their father, a feminized version of his name for their first name, and middle is a name with the same meaning as that of my brother, has passed away a year before my youngest was born. My child's father then passed away when they were 8. When my child was about 11-ish, it became clear that for them their names were a burden and they asked to change their name. Child is 13 now, and very happy with a non-memorial name. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to walk my disabled brother down the aisle at my own wedding? Hi Reddit. I, 29 female, am getting married next month. My fiancé, 31 male, and I have been planning a small, intimate ceremony. And honestly, it's been a lot of emotional work for me. I've always dreamed of this day being peaceful and simple, especially because I've struggled with anxiety and CPTSD most of my life. I have a younger brother, 24 male, who is disabled. He's in a wheelchair and has some developmental delays, but he's sweet, kind, and everyone loves him. I love him too, but growing up, everything revolved around him. Birthdays, holidays, family events, all were shaped around his needs. I often felt invisible. When I got engaged, my family asked if I would have my brother walk me down the aisle. We lost our dad 3 years ago. I gently said no. I told them I loved him dearly, but I really wanted to walk down alone, or maybe with my mom. It felt like a personal moment, something just for me. They didn't take it well. They said I was being cruel and selfish, that I was ashamed of my brother, that he'd be devastated. Even my fiancé's family's now involved, asking if I could just compromise for one day. I feel horrible. But at the same time, for once I just wanted one day where I didn't have to share everything. Is that really so awful? Now for the comments. This is your wedding, your time to shine. Don't be ashamed for standing up for yourself for what you want and deserve. Thank you. I spent so much of my life putting others first, especially in my family, that just hearing someone say I'm allowed to take up space feels huge. Of course, you should put yourself as a priority at least this time. I'm sure your family will come to understand that too. Stay strong. You got this. I've been second-guessing myself so much, but I'm starting to realize that I do deserve to feel at peace and celebrated on my wedding day. I suggest simply telling everyone you have always planned to walk down the aisle alone with a special keepsake or locket with a picture or something personal of your dad coming along with you. Don't ask your mom, as she will probably volunteer to give up her spot so your brother can do it, which is not what you are wanting. So don't even throw that out there and give anyone a chance to change your dream wedding into something they want, instead of listening to what you are wanting on your special day. Don't feel bad about making one day about yourself and your fiancé. Your brother is a guest and can be seated in the audience just like everyone else. Typically, only the mothers get walked down the aisle, so he should not be included in this tradition either, unless you want him to be. Still sounds like your mom is wanting him to shine at every moment, even if it isn't actually about him. It is ableist to make things about the disabled person and pander to them all the time. If he were not disabled, they would not push this. Tell them you will respect his autonomy as a person and not pander to him. I had a disabled sister, recently passed. I am much older than you, and my mom constantly did stuff like this. She centered everything on my sister. In many ways, it was more about my mom and not my sister. We loved my sister dearly, but she got all the oxygen in the room at my mom's insistence, and it was not healthy for her or anyone else. She did not get to have real friendships or relationships because my mom was always there to say, you need to include them more. We did include her, but if we were discussing a complex personal medical issue, etc., my mom would insist we include my sister, and we would have to pretend her treatment ideas were valid. We could be discussing my husband's job that he went to school for many years for, very technical, and my mom would pretend my sister knew about that topic and ask her to weigh in. Every moment belonged to her first, and we had to pretend she was capable of everything, instead of acknowledging her limitations and being okay with it. Don't let them guilt you. Say no. Have a great day. Set boundaries now. If anyone questions it, throw it back on them, and say you will not pander to him and be ableist by giving him a role that you do not want filled.